So here we are a week after the GNX release by Kendrick Lamar. And I must say, it's a really good album. So when it comes to listening to new music, I like to generally process it over about a week. I make sure I listen to it on a good sound system. Phone speakers don't cut it. And when I'm listening to see if I pick up on any references like samples and stuff like that, interpolations. Do I like the lyrics? Is the production on point? I don't like to go with the hype. This is me giving the artist a full chance, they full shake, and I listen to it to see if I like it for myself. So after giving it a full week's listen, I do have some thoughts. So my initial thought for the album is that I thought it was like the unreleased, unmastered situation. He just kind of put out some tracks. But then I started listening and I was like, well, he did something that he normally does on a regular album where he has some element that ties it together throughout. And that element was Daira Barrera. She started out on Whacked Out Murals and then she was sprinkled on different songs throughout the album. So we started Whacked Out Mural and Barrera singing something in Spanish. And I put it in Google Translate, and it's kind of loosely translated here. And I read it as, I felt your presence last night and I started to cry. And then the next thing you know, Kendrick shows up and he says, yesterday somebody whacked out my mural. So it's starting out with him sort of kind of connecting what she was saying to what his life is. His presence alone brings love and hate. And he was saying that some of that hate would make some of y'all tuck tail and run. But that comes with the territory with him, so he's used to it. And then throughout this song, he was talking about how, I'm just used to being by myself. I'm seeing a lot of fake people that's showing up, that's showing me like backhanded compliments and stuff like that. So the first verse, he was doing more of a build-up. He said, I've been through a lot, and I got the ability to endure through all of this. So the chorus is really you hyping yourself up, because he was like, yeah, homie, going up your rank. Know you a god even when they say you ain't. And then he goes on to say, keep your feelings out of the way. Don't let people throw dirt on your name and realize everybody ain't gonna like you. So then Sister Pereira said something in Spanish again that I translated to mean, hey, you had that look in your eyes like you was about to do something that night, bruh. And this is where that song began to build even harder, that second verse. He even touched on the Super Bowl conversation and that controversy. He talked about Wayne a little bit. Not even in a negative way. He was just like, I looked up to the brother. I used to bump the Carter 3. And, I worked really hard for somebody that I looked up to be disappointed because I took something that he wanted. He wanted to perform in front of his people at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. I actually got the bid. It was a very matter-of-fact statement. I wasn't really sure where it was going and why people were thinking it was something negative and an attack on Wayne. It turns out that rappers are a lot more sensitive than they present themselves to be, because I didn't hear anything unless there's something I'm missing. So even Kendrick was like, man, it seemed like ain't nobody really riding with me. He was like, well, F everybody then. He was even talking about his homie Snoop. He was like, we supposed to be partners. How you gonna post Taylor Made? He was like, I was hoping it was the edibles because, I had to let that go. And Unc was like, yeah, it was. And then he goes on to say, I got that Super Bowl bid and Nas was the only one that congratulated me. It's like the rest of y'all was kind of agitated. So like, what's really up? So he was like, some of y'all kind of suspect. Y'all ain't as great as y'all say y'all are. And y'all are trying to pretend to be something with me that y'all ain't. So don't play in my face. Just stay over there. So I think the last verse was him trying to say, you know what? This is the last time I really want to address homeboy Drake. And I'm going to say it this way. The man was out here trying to send people money, do Bitcoin transactions, all that kind of stuff to get dirt on him. And he said, I can't really piece it up with him because it don't sit well with me. And he said, you know what? I'll take him to hell with me before I piece it up with him. I feel like a lot of this song was him getting a lot of stuff off his chest because he even went to hit up James and Fuhad from Shits and Gigs. He referenced that Andrew Schultz interview with James and Fuhad where Andrew was making fun of black women in front of them and they didn't say anything. They just kind of laughed along with it. But they messed up because their core followers in America is heavily black women. And it's crazy because it caused a lot of controversy because if you pay attention to the black American woman base, they are tired of being made fun of and being the butt of the joke all the time. When you look at comments and different videos online, generally the sisters are saying, hey, leave us out of this. So you could tell Kendrick been online because Kendrick was like, hey, don't let no white comedian make fun of them sisters in front of you and you do or say nothing. And he was talking directly to the black men. He don't care nothing about Andrew Schultz. So essentially Whacked Out Murals is one of those songs that he's like just trying to get this stuff off his chest up front. So it's a pretty good song. I will say that I'm not going to listen to it every time I listen to the album because there are other songs that I prioritize over this. And I'm going to get straight to it when I get on this album. And then we get to one of my favorite tracks on the album, Squabble Up. I don't even have a lot to say about this song. I just actually really enjoy it. I mean, people been begging for this song since they saw it at the beginning of the Not Like Us video. They're like, hey, go ahead and release that full song. And I'm glad he did because it's just something about them beats out west. Now, I'm from the South, Tennessee to be exact, but I'm gonna tell you, I feel like the West Coast don't get enough love for their production. And it's rare to hear other people outside of the West use that kind of production. It makes me think of when Jay-Z did Change the Game on the Rock La Familia album and he used a West Coast beat. It just hits different. So Squabble Up already got me ready to get busy after that beat drop. Then we heard the sample of a song that was familiar to a lot of people. Now, I can't recall if I've heard this song before. It just sounds familiar. Then he got a whole video with a lot of Easter eggs. He got Ice-T reference, Soul Train, Isaac Hayes, different stuff like that. Menace to Society. Like, he has a lot of different references that people are trying to decipher. Now, the part that I noticed is that he changed up the beat / the lyrics to that part where he's in the middle of the song. He's like, hold up. It was a subtle change, but it was enough to notice it. The song is not even that long. It's under 3 minutes, but it go hard. So I'm gonna run it back a lot. So when we get to that next track, Luther, you don't know what's about to happen because you hear that guitar at the beginning and it's like, oh, we about to do something Spanish. Like, what's happening? But as soon as I heard, if this world were mine, and then that beat dropped, it made me want to do one of these numbers. First of all, I absolutely love Luther Vandross. And secondly, If This World Were Mine was one of my faves since I was a kid. It also reminds me of that movie The Wood, where homeboy got jumped by the gang member because he touched his sister's booty.
Saw the light, a hand reaching out to me from the heavens. My mistake, it was his fist.
And then the gang member ended up saying, hey, you like my sister, don't you? He's like, well, if you at the dance and this song comes on, this happens to be one of her favorite songs. So go over there and get a dance. So that's like already making me feel good about the song to begin with. So then we start getting the more melodic Kendrick that we got from Loyalty on the Damn album with Riri. And then I hear SZA's voice come in. And when I say she sounds great on this song, like it's so smooth, it's so angelic. Kendrick and SZA always have a really good synergy when they work together. And I absolutely love when rappers use songs to like say what they want to say. So like, If This World Were Mine was actually about, hey, if this was mine, I would give you everything you ever wanted. And then this song that he and SZA are singing right now actually is the same thing. It's just like more of a hip hop version of it. Not that they did the same thing here, but it gives the same energy of when like Method Man and Mary J. Blige did You're All I Need to Get By. This was an instant win for me. And then we go into Man at the Garden. Now, the first thing off top I hear is One Mic by Nas. It sounded more like an interpolation than an actual sample. So I'm like, I would call it One Mic Light. It's sort of like he's paying respect to Nas the whole time. Because even the way he says, I deserve it all, it kind of makes you think, all I need is one mic. Because even the verses he was spitting, he was real calm for the most part. And then when he needed to take it up, he hit us with the forte. So Nas switched between forte and piano throughout the song One Mic. Whereas Kendrick decided to be piano most of the time. Like, he was pretty soft most of the song. And then all of a sudden, he decided to kind of crescendo his voice up into that forte space where he was loud as hell. And then right after he hit that climax, he came right back down like One Mic and said, I deserve it all. When you listening to the song, you start hearing why he's saying all this stuff. He's saying, I deserve it all. I done put in all this time, this effort. I've been waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm working on breath control. I'm learning how to perform. I'm making sure that I don't mess up on my own skills. Just because you had a skill and the talent, that doesn't mean you don't need to practice, right? So he's saying, I put in all the work and I deserve this. I deserve to have that house on the waterfront. I deserve to be out in Ibiza doing my thing. I deserve the accolades that I've received. And I'm wondering if some of this track is to like actually inspire people to be like, you know what? I've done this work. And even though a lot of people doubt me, I've done everything I needed to do to get to this level. I've earned it. So like when I get things, I shouldn't be bashful and be like, oh man, I don't know if I should have got this. Like that imposter syndrome is real. And we have to build ourselves up in a different way, in a different mindset to say, you know, I'm not arrogant if I say I deserve something. It's sort of like what he was talking about in Whacked Out Murals. Know you a God even when they say you ain't. It's building up your confidence. And another angle to look at this is a lot of people during that beef with Drake was like, oh, he's only getting this Super Bowl bid because he battled Drake and won and all of this other kind of stuff. So he owes Drake a thank you or whatever. As if he doesn't have a catalog that stretches back over a decade. You don't headline the Super Bowl off of one song. That's a guest appearance. You got to have a stout catalog to be able to headline. Now, when his voice started intensifying toward the end of the song and he started elevating, essentially he was like, man, I'm kind of sick of y'all. Like, how do people that don't even go here, like you're not even supposed to be around. You pretty much a spectator. You don't live and breathe this culture for real, yet you feel like you're entitled to a voice in this community. And you said voice to say who does and doesn't deserve what in this community. I'm coming for what's mine because it is mine, and I deserve it all. Now, when Hey Now first came on, I had no clue what to expect. But that sound was kind of haunting. It's like, cha, 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 cha. I'm thinking Jason. So for starters, the beat was very simple. And then once he added his voice to that canvas, it said, okay, so we going somewhere real quick. He was like, hey now, say now, I'm all about my yin. Big face Buddha, get my peace from within. I was like, I can get with that. And I was just vibing out to the song, moving my shoulders, kind of listening to the song. And then all of a sudden, about 1:43 in the song, the beat got on the elevator because he took it up a notch.
Mr. Ben Frank murderer, Mr. I ain't heard of ya. Gar strings back to back flying through the turbulence.
The song started getting hype. My favorite part of the song is when he says, I'm way too important to ever let you slide on me again. It was like the song just had an upward trajectory the whole time. But then he flew down to Atlanta real quick and was like, I'm starting to see spaceships on Rose Grand. I seen the aliens hold hands. I was like, all right then, Fabo Lamore.
I'm starting to see spaceships on Bankhead. I roll with gangsters.
Now the background vocalists were kind of locked in that section. I was like, oh, this is a nice touch on this. And I thought the song could end after that, but they didn't let it end. Instead, they let a guy named Dodie Six come in and clean it up. And I didn't know who he was. I'd heard the name Dodie before, but I'd never listened to his music. But he might have a J-Rock effect on me right now, because I might need to check out the catalog. There are periods of time when I've been in school and I've totally fallen into a black hole and missed out on everything. So like I missed the black hippie movement, so I never got to hear J-Rock. And then I heard Money Trees and I was like, who is this? I done missed out. So I had to go back and find out who he was. And now I'm a fan. So that's sort of how I'm feeling about Dodie. So I went to go look at his album covers and I was like, some of them covers were a little interesting. He had one that said Free Dodie, which made me wonder, like, are you what Gangstalicious was describing when he was talking about Ice Cube in that trunk?
He was so gangsta. I used to have dreams that Ice Cube came to my house and killed my whole family.
I'm gonna give it a shot and see what he's doing. So next we're going into a song that was one of my immediate favorites, Reincarnated. So first of all, let's talk about the fact that this song has so many layers to it. For starters, you got to think about Barrera singing those same words or similar words that she sang before the second verse of Whacked Out Murals. She's like, fam, I'm seeing something behind those eyes of yours. And then when the beat drops, it's a Tupac song. He's doing what he usually does best. He raps from people's perspectives, but he's also rapping as Tupac. In the first verse, he's allegedly speaking from the perspective of Johnny Lee Hooker. The reason why I say allegedly is because people think it's Johnny Lee Hooker because he moved from Mississippi up to Detroit to perform. He's a great musician, great talented blues player. And his first hit, Boogie Chillin', came out in 1948. And he happened to move out to California in 1970. In that verse, he discussed his talent, all the skill that he had, everything that he was doing on his journey, but talked about how gluttony ended up taking him out. So in the second verse, he is reincarnated as a black woman who was on the chitlin circuit. People have said that this is Billie Holiday. She has so much favor as a very talented singer, and people still listen to her today. But like, she had a horrible addiction. Like, she could not kick those drugs, and that ended up being her ruin. Now, in the last verse, he decided to rap as Kendrick Lamar. He was like, my present life is Kendrick Lamar. So when you think about it, there's an influence that's going on in all these different people's lives. There's Kendrick's life, there's Billie Holiday's life, and there's Johnny Lee Hooker's life. And everybody has gotten kicked out or being looked at in a different way because they were rebellious or they had something that was like a sin. So like, the father kicked Johnny Lee Hooker out the house. Billie said her father looked away because he saw sin in her. And Kendrick's dad kicked him out of the house because he was living a way he didn't agree with. And as you get further down in that verse, you start recognizing there's a conversation being had between a father and a son. So it turns out that it's the devil and God talking. So the devil, who also got kicked out of his house by his father, was recreating his story in all these different individuals, if you think about it. He was the rebellious spirit that was inhabiting all of these people. And if you want to add another person, you got Tupac. He was rapping as Tupac throughout the first two verses. And Tupac was also a rebellious spirit. And you got to think about it. This is the second time on the album that Kendrick actually delved into saying, I'm reincarnated. The first time he said it, it was on Squabble Up. He started off out of nowhere. He was like, God knows, I am reincarnated. So one, whose perspective is he speaking from? And two, who is he reincarnated as? Is he coming back through all those references that are in that Squabble Up video? Is he rapping from the devil's perspective? This wouldn't be the first time he did this, because he did it on To Pimp a Butterfly. He was Lucy. So it also makes me kind of wonder when Barrera was saying, I see something in your eyes, that she was probably talking about the spirit when she looks at you. So the devil has been dragging people down for a long time. And what the devil was trying to do in that conversation with God, it was like, hey, I'm gonna make some changes. I used to take people down with my music, but now I'm gonna benefit people and build them up. And I'm gonna make music that makes a difference in a positive way. Now, if it's the actual devil, I doubt that he's actually looking for any type of redemption at all, because he's the devil, but it's still a creative song. So another big moment on the album is TV Off with Lefty Gunplay. And so how I'm taking this song is like, he's saying turn the TV off. A lot of these folks ain't built to be good to follow, so you probably need to turn off the TV anyway. So I believe it was Gil Scott-Heron that said the revolution would not be televised. And then you have Kendrick saying the revolution has been televised. And he said, but I slipped through the cracks. So it's a lot of riffraff that's gonna be on that TV. You might as well just turn it off. So we survived outside off from the music anyway. And by halfway through the song breaks and changes beats. And it said, mother on a beat. Oh, they made sure that we knew that this was an album from One West. And I'm sure Mustard regrets sending all these beats to K-Dot, because I know people out here screaming at him. Mustard! And I bet he is probably already tired of it. He gonna have to change his name. Well, listen, he gonna have a good time because he got a hit on his hand. And Kendrick already said he gonna walk in New Orleans with the etiquette of LA yelling about condiments in the first place. It's gonna be another hit, but it's gonna be a little while. We'll see you in February, Mustard. And then at the end, you got Let the Gunplay saying, it's getting crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious, crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious. That makes me think of genres of content that you watch on TV. You watch scary movies or TV shows, you watch comedies, and you watch stuff that's crazy, that's dramatic. And then we get to the Dodger Blue with Wally the Sensei, Siete 7 Times, and Roddy Ricch. Let me tell you, if I had a top to put down, I would definitely put it down and ride to this. It's such an easy listen, and all the features were used well. The production was great. It's just a chill song. There's not a lot to report there. I just enjoy the song. When it comes to Peekaboo, I'm like, it's not bad, but I don't really listen to it that much. I don't come back as much to that one as I do the other songs. Like, it's kind of catchy when he's talking about, what you talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. What you talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. Like, that's kind of interesting, but the song really don't do it for me like that. I can listen to it, but generally I'm not looking for it. So the Hard Part 6, I mean, this is probably in my top 2 or 3 on the album. So if you pay any attention to the beef that happened this year, you saw that Drake did the Hard Part 6, trying to take over what Kendrick has been doing with the Heart series. And Kendrick decided to put out Hard Part 6 anyway. He was like, listen, he ain't doing my series like I'm doing my series. So he went ahead and put out this song. And one of the best things about this is that the song has nothing to do with Drake. Remember what I said in Whacked Out Murals? I said he was going to chill out on that Drake talk. So he's proceeding with business as usual. And he proceeds to talk about the origins of Black Hippie and how they came to be and how they were trying to get J-Rock a record deal and how he said, if J-Rock make it, I make it too. And talking about how Ab Soul is over here writing down something sickening. And he was like, I want to get to that level. Then you got Schoolboy Q, who wasn't a rapper at the time, and he got that energy from the crew and became one. And he talked about how they supported each other. Like Schoolboy Q was like, hey, you the one. Nobody needs to sleep on you, bruh. And then he eventually gets to that point where he says, my solo ambitions of getting to these lofty heights caused my group not to work. And he said, I should have had a conversation with my people. So he gives advice to young people coming up behind him. He was like, hey, you need to learn to talk to your people. Don't let social media gas you up, your emotions be a crutch. Don't sit back and not talk to your folks. If you need to say something, say something. Have a heart-to-heart with your folks. Sometimes people are more understanding than you think. And I feel like this is the kind of messaging we should be pushing right now. I know a lot of people like to see war and controversy and blood, but I think this is the more mature space that we should be existing in and should be pushed more. Now, before I stop talking about this song, we need to talk about this production. The production had no choice but to be good because they pretty much lifted and modernized Use Your Heart by SWV. So it's really hard to mess up a song that's already kind of baked as long as you don't do too much. I really love how they used the background vocalists. I love how they carried the voices from the hook into that second verse for background as Kendrick was rapping. So the next time you listen to the song, look for this part at the end of the chorus. It carries over. Like, it was pretty dope. So this is clearly one that gets an instant listen for me when I put on the album. So we on the last 2 tracks of the album, and I'm gonna tell you right now. The actual GNX track itself, this one is a skip. It's just not for me. It's something about that production that just don't hit for me. And don't get it confused, because some of them features was actually sounding pretty good. I think Peso actually kind of made me kind of raise an eyebrow a little bit. I was like, I might need to check him out too. But the song in general just doesn't sound like it's supposed to sound, in my opinion. And to end the album, we hit Gloria. And guess who starts the song out? Barrera. And she says something that is translated loosely to Anita and you sitting down, right? So then he starts going on this whole conversation about how he met his girl and how all these different things were going on in that relationship. They got a complicated relationship. There's ebbs and flows. There's different things that are happening in their lives, saying you can't play with her because she don't play no games. She told me back in the day when we met as teenagers, you're going to see paper and we're going to right your wrongs, all that different kind of stuff, right? So it's like poetic. Now, while he's talking about all this relationship stuff, this man is actually doing a double entendre, kind of talking about his girl while actually talking about his relationship between him and his pen. And there were noticeable lines in the song where you could tell he was talking about a pen. Like he said, your favorite movie is Notebook. And he said, I would right my wrongs instead of right my wrongs, R-I-G-H-T. So he wrote W-R-I-T-E. He said, we made 1,000 mistakes, but we never lacked chemistry. And of course, SZA is the icing on the cake for this song. So for me, I think this album was a really good piece of work. Whether it's a mixtape or an actual album, I don't really care. What I actually care about is the fact that he took the time to actually think about the art that he was presenting to the world. I really love the fact that he incorporated so many elements from LA. I mean, he's always repped the West, but this time I feel like he was very intentional with the beats he chose. I think he was intentional about the people that he incorporated. You remember Homeboy got upset for not being included in the pop out as a Hispanic person. And given the historical context of Juneteenth, that's not really the space for them. But there's a huge population of Hispanic people out in LA, and I'm glad that Kendrick said, hey, I'm going to incorporate them into the album as well. So the people who actually listened to the album, what do you think of the album? Was it good? Was it bad? Are you indifferent? Are you tired of them already? What are some things that you noticed that I missed?